All right, get ready, because we're taking a deep dive into AI today. Well, specifically, what some of the biggest names in the field are saying about where AI is going.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, you kind of set me up with a pretty massive reading list with articles and quotes. We got CEOs, founders, researchers, even a former president.
I know, right? It's like a who's who of AI.
I guess you must be pretty curious about the future of AI, huh? What it all means for us.
Honestly, who isn't? I think that's why I pulled all this stuff together. We've got a real mix here, the usual suspects like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, but also some deeper cuts like Ilya Sutskever. Haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah, he's been laying low, right?
Yeah.
Kind of went underground. That's what I love about these deep dives. It's like a cheat sheet to the most important conversations happening right now. And looking at all this, it seems like everyone agrees AI is going to be huge EE, but how that actually plays out is where things get interesting.
Exactly. Take that whole electricity analogy that's been going around. Barack Obama, Kai-Fu Lee, they're comparing AI's impact to the advent of electricity. Transformative, foundational. Is this just hype or what?
Okay, I gotta admit, when I first read that, I was like, come on, everything's the next electricity.
Yeah.
It's kind of cliche at this point.
Yeah, you're right. It does sound a bit like every new tech gets the electricity treatment at some point.
Right. Like, we get it. It's a big deal.
But think about it, though. Electricity wasn't just some new gadget, you know? It completely changed how we lived, how we worked, even how we thought. It powered brand new industries and totally reshaped society.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. And AI, with all its potential to automate everything, analyze insane amounts of data, even mimic human creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that having a ripple effect on, well, everything.
Exactly. But if we are talking about a total societal transformation, then the timeline definitely matters. And that's where things get really interesting, right? Because you have Elon Musk over here saying superhuman AI is right around the corner, like by 2029.
Wow, any day now.
Then there's Jensen Huang at NVIDIA, who says it's within 5 years based on AI passing these intelligence tests.
Okay, so like pretty soon.
Right. But then you have Sam Altman, the ChatGPT guy, and he's a bit more cautious. He's really focused on the social and economic impacts of AI, not just raw intelligence.
So we've got any day now on one side and hold your horses on the other. It's like everyone agrees the earthquake is coming, but no one can agree on when to start panicking.
That's a great analogy. And honestly, I think that gap just shows how much we're still figuring things out. Even at the highest levels, I mean, we don't even have a good definition of what superintelligence actually is. Is it about acing a test or something more? And how do you even measure something that might end up smarter than us?
Good point. It's like we're trying to map a continent, but we're still discovering new islands every day.
Right.
But speaking of uncharted territory, let's talk about jobs. This seems to be what everyone's really worried about. I mean, if AI can do everything, what happens to all of us?
That is the million-dollar question. And there are a lot of different answers. On one hand, you've got Musk basically saying that jobs become optional. AI handles everything, and we all just kind of kick back and enjoy life.
Sounds nice.
Right.
Sign me up.
But I can also see a lot of people being pretty unhappy with that. Like, what do you do with yourself all day?
Totally. And that's where someone like Hadi Bertovi from code.org comes in. He's all about the skills gap. His point is it's not robots literally taking jobs. It's humans who know how to use AI outcompeting everyone else.
So less robots stealing jobs and more humans needing to upskill. Makes sense.
Right. But then you have someone like Vinod Khosla predicting this, like abundance of free services thanks to AI, doctors, lawyers, tutors, all free. It's almost utopian, but is it actually realistic? I mean, it's definitely a bold prediction. But you're right, it brings up a lot of questions. We're talking about potentially changing the entire structure of society, how we work, how we learn, how we even access basic services. And if AI is the driving force, the big question becomes, is it augmenting us or replacing us? Right, like are we talking about AI as a tool, just a really, really good hammer, or something that totally changes what it even means to be human?
It is a pretty profound question when you think about it. And it seems to be at the core of a lot of these predictions. You've got Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, who's very much in the AI as empowerment camp, believes it's all about humans and AI working together, not one replacing the other.
I think a lot of people are hoping for that, right? Like, let's make our lives easier, not make ourselves obsolete.
Absolutely. And Bill Gates kind of echoes that sentiment, especially when it comes to AI's potential in mental health.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz about that.
But even Gates adds a note of caution in there. And then you have Jeff Hinton, one of the pioneers of deep learning, who is way more apprehensive. He really emphasizes the difference between digital and biological intelligence. Like, they might not be so easy to reconcile.
Okay, now you're making me nervous. How much control can we really have over something that might become, in some ways, smarter than us?
That's a question that comes up a lot in these articles, and it clearly makes even the most gung-ho AI people a little nervous. Like, even Altman admits he's worried about control and thinks that widespread access to AI is the best way to manage the risks.
So democratizing AI to keep it from becoming too concentrated in the hands of a few. Interesting strategy. But how does that square with this whole AI escaping our control scenario that some folks are worried about?
That's where this whole safe architectures idea comes in. Demis Hassabis, who co-founded DeepMind, really pushes for a lot of collaboration across different fields. He's saying we need to build AI with safety and ethics built in, not just focus on making it more powerful. We can't assume more intelligence means good intentions.
Yeah, that's a sobering thought, especially when you have people like Hinton specifically worried about AI writing its own code, like it could just bypass any safeguards we put in place.
Right. It's kind of getting into sci-fi territory there. How do you program ethics into something that might be able to think circles around you?
Okay, I'm officially freaked out now.
Yeah.
Can we talk about something a little more fun for a minute?
Yeah.
Like, what about creativity?
Yes, good idea. Even if we avoid the whole robot overlord situation, AI is going to turn the creative world upside down.
Jeffrey Katzenberg, the former head of DreamWorks, is basically saying, get ready for a whole new era of entertainment creation. What used to take massive teams and years of work might soon be possible for just a few people with the right AI tools.
And it's not just about speed or cost, it's about opening up creative possibilities that we can't even imagine yet.
Right. Like imagine conjuring up entire worlds and characters and stories. But isn't that also kind of terrifying for artists? Are we talking about the death of human creativity?
That's the debate, right? Is AI a collaborator, a tool to expand our creativity? Or is it a threat, something that will just make all art the same and replace the unique human touch?
I guess that depends on who's using these tools and what they're trying to do. But even if AI becomes this amazing creative partner, don't we still need new skills to keep up?
Oh, absolutely. Stephen Wolfram, the guy behind Mathematica, makes a really good point. He says that as AI takes over a lot of the routine stuff, the truly valuable skills become thinking broadly and knowing which questions to ask.
So less about mastering specific techniques and more about mastering the art of saying, what if?
Exactly. And even something like programming, which everyone thinks is essential for the AI age, might become less important. Jensen Huang thinks that as AI gets easier to use, more human-like, we won't need to code in the traditional way.
So what does that mean for education? Are we even teaching the right things anymore?
It's definitely forcing everyone to rethink things. We've always focused on preparing people for today's jobs, but if AI keeps changing the game, what we really need is adaptability, the ability to learn new things quickly and constantly.
It's like the entire education system needs a software update.
Yes, exactly. And not just in schools. We're all going to have to be lifelong learners in the AI era.
Okay, last but not least, there's this whole open versus closed AI development thing, which honestly feels like a whole other deep dive waiting to happen.
Oh, for sure. It's a fascinating tension. You have companies like OpenAI, which started out super open source, but now they're way more closed off, citing safety concerns.
And then you have Ilya Sutskever, who was a big deal at OpenAI, now working at this top secret startup. And he's hinting at some totally new paradigm for AI development, something beyond what we're doing now.
And while he's keeping things super hush-hush for now, he does say he hopes for more openness in the future, especially when it comes to research on how to keep superintelligence safe.
It makes you wonder if you can actually have both competitive advantage and global safety when you're dealing with something as powerful as AI.
Right. It's a tough question, and it's something we're all going to have to figure out as AI keeps evolving.
Well, I think we've officially gone down the rabbit hole with this one. So many big ideas, so many possible futures. I don't know about you, but I need a minute to process all this.
I hear you. It's a lot to take in. But before you totally spiral, remember, this is about understanding the landscape, not getting overwhelmed by it.
Good point. Maybe we should take a breather and come back with a fresh perspective.
Sounds like a plan. Let's regroup and see what other insights we can uncover in part 2. All right, so are we ready to jump back into the AI rabbit hole?
I'm still kind of processing everything from our last conversation, to be honest, but yeah. Let's do it. We covered so much, the electricity analogy, job displacement, even the potential for AI to escape our control. I think I need a crash course in AI ethics just to keep up.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's like trying to navigate through uncharted territory. But the good news is that a lot of really smart people are working on this problem. Even if there's no single solution, there are some guiding principles we can follow.
Okay, so what's the SparkNotes version? What are the ground rules we should be thinking about with AI?
Well, the most important thing is that AI needs to be developed and used to benefit humanity. That means things like fairness, transparency, and accountability need to be baked in from the beginning.
So no more black box algorithms making decisions that affect people's lives without us understanding how they got there.
Exactly. We need to know why AI systems are making the choices they make and make sure that bias isn't built into the process. Otherwise, we risk making existing inequalities even worse instead of fixing them.
That makes sense. So what else? What else should we be thinking about?
Another big one is human control. Just because AI systems are getting more and more complex doesn't mean humans should give up control. We need clear lines of responsibility, and ultimately, humans need to be able to step in and override AI if necessary.
That makes me think about things like autonomous weapons. There's a lot at stake if AI is calling the shots in those situations.
Exactly. When we're talking about life or death decisions, we need to be extra careful. We can't forget about human judgment and values.
So it's not just about making AI smarter, it's about making it responsible too.
You got it. And that's not something that just computer scientists can figure out on their own. It needs to be a team effort. Ethics experts, lawyers, social scientists, even philosophers. Everyone needs to be involved to get this right.
Okay, now that's what I call a dream team. But it sounds like a pretty massive undertaking. It feels like every time there's a new advancement in AI, it just creates more ethical questions.
That's true. And it's not just the responsibility of tech companies or governments. We all need to understand the impact of AI and speak up for the kind of future we want to see.
Okay, so I get the ethical framework, but how do we actually put that into practice? How do we make sure AI systems are built with ethics in mind?
That's where the rubber meets the road. There's no easy answer, but one promising approach is to design AI with ethics in mind from the very start.
So building in safeguards against bias or creating algorithms that prioritize human well-being.
Exactly. We need to make those values part of AI's DNA, not something we just tack on later.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about the possibility of AI becoming so advanced that it can outsmart our safeguards? I mean, you can hack any system if you're smart enough, right?
That's a valid concern, and researchers are looking into different ways to address it. One thing they're exploring is called value alignment.
Value alignment. Okay, what is that and how does it work?
Basically, it's about teaching AI to understand and share human values.
So we're trying to teach AI to think like us, but hopefully without all our flaws and biases.
Exactly, but it's a really tough challenge. Human values are complex. They can be contradictory and change over time.
Well, I mean, if you look at history, we haven't exactly been great at figuring that out ourselves. But it sounds like getting value alignment right is crucial if we want AI to be a force for good and not just a reflection of our own shortcomings.
Totally agree. And that's why research in areas like AI safety and ethics is so crucial. We need to be proactive, identifying potential risks, and figuring out how to mitigate them before they become a problem.
It sounds like a real balancing act, pushing the limits of what AI can do while also making sure it doesn't end up hurting us in the process. Do you think we're up to the challenge?
It's definitely a challenge, but I think we can handle it if we're thoughtful, work together, and maybe have a healthy dose of caution.
Well, after going this deep into the world of AI, I'm feeling a mix of awe and apprehension. It has so much potential to change the world, but the stakes are high. What about you?
Yeah, I think that tension is really present in all these articles and quotes. Everyone's excited about what AI could do, but there's also this awareness of how important it is to get it right.
Okay, so how do we bring this back down to earth? What does all this mean for the average person trying to make sense of AI? Should we all be prepping for a Terminator-style future? Or is that a little extreme?
That's a great question, and one we'll get into in the next part. We'll look at some specific examples of how AI is being used today and how we can all navigate this crazy new world.
Okay, so we're saving the doomsday scenarios for later. I can handle that. But before we get there, what's really stuck with you out of all of this? What's caught your attention?
Honestly, it's the sheer scale of the potential impact. We're not just talking about smarter gadgets or even self-driving cars. It's about fundamental changes to how we work, learn, and even connect with each other. It's both exciting and a little scary.
Yeah, I get that. It's a lot to take in, which is why these conversations are so important. We need to break down these complex topics and make them understandable so we can all be a part of shaping the future.
Well said. I agree.
I think we covered a lot in this segment. The ethical implications of AI, the need for human control, the challenge of getting AI to share our values, but we've only scratched the surface. Let's take a moment to digest all of this, and then we'll dive into the real-world stuff in the next part. All right, so we've talked about the big ideas around AI, the potential impacts, the ethical stuff, the need to be really careful with all this. But now I kind of want to get down to brass tacks. How is AI actually changing things in the real world? Like, where is it already making a difference?
That's a great question. And honestly, the answer is kind of everywhere. But let's start with something you mentioned earlier, education. Sal Khan, the Hackamy guy, he's super bullish on AI's potential to personalize learning. He's talking about a world where every student, no matter where they're from or what their background is, has access to a totally customized learning experience, like designed just for them.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, AI could basically give every student their own personal tutor, helping them learn at their own pace and focusing on the stuff they need the most help with.
Exactly. Imagine an AI that can figure out a student's learning style, their strengths and weaknesses, and then adjust the curriculum on the fly. It could give them feedback in real time, answer questions, and even give them a little encouragement when they're struggling.
It sounds kind of sci-fi, but also incredibly powerful. If we can actually make it work, it could level the playing field in education like never before. But what about the teachers? Does this mean they're out of a job?
Not necessarily. A lot of experts think that AI can actually help teachers do their jobs even better. Think about all the time teachers spend on administrative stuff, grading, just trying to keep up with a classroom full of kids with different needs. AI could automate a lot of that, freeing up teachers to focus on what they're really good at, like mentoring, inspiring, actually connecting with their students.
So AI becomes this amazing assistant for teachers, helping them create a better learning environment for everyone. I like that. What about other fields? I feel like we hear a lot about AI in healthcare these days.
Oh yeah, healthcare is definitely another area where AI is going to have a huge impact. We're already seeing AI being used to analyze medical images, help doctors diagnose diseases, and even come up with personalized treatment plans.
Yeah. I've seen articles about AI being used to spot cancer cells in mammograms, even predict heart attacks before they happen. It's crazy how much potential there is to improve diagnosis and treatment.
Totally. And it goes beyond just treating existing conditions. Demis Hassabis, remember him, he thinks AI could revolutionize drug discovery, like shrink the time it takes to develop new treatments from years to months. That could save so many lives.
That's huge. And I know there's a lot of work being done with AI to develop assistive technology for people with disabilities, too, which is amazing. It feels like we're on the verge of some incredible breakthroughs.
For sure. But it's important to remember that even with all the potential for good, there are still risks. We need to be really careful about how AI is used in healthcare. We can't just blindly trust an algorithm with our health.
Right. There needs to be human oversight, ethical considerations, especially when you're talking about things like data privacy and making sure everyone has equal access to healthcare.
Those are such important points. We can't let the excitement about AI's potential make us forget about the potential downsides. We need to be asking those hard questions and make sure we're developing and using AI responsibly.
Okay, well, speaking of hard questions, what about the possibility that AI could be used for, well, not so good purposes? Like any technology can be used for good or bad, right?
Right, and that's definitely a concern. While a lot of these experts are optimistic about AI making our lives better, they also know it could be used for harmful things. We've already seen examples of AI being used for deepfakes, spreading misinformation, even developing autonomous weapons.
Okay, so now we're back to the Terminator scenario. It is kind of unsettling to think about how easily AI could be used for bad stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's a good reminder that we can't just focus on the positive stuff. We need to be aware of the risks and be proactive about creating safeguards and regulations to prevent those risks from actually happening.
It's like we're walking a tightrope, right? AI has all this incredible potential, but it could also be really dangerous. How do we make sure we stay on the right side of that line?
I think it comes down to having these conversations, being informed about all the ways AI could be used, and advocating for responsible development and use. We can't just sit back and watch. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI.
I like that. So after taking this deep dive into AI, what's your biggest takeaway? What's the one thing you really want listeners to remember?
For me, it's this. AI is more than just another technology. It's a force that's going to shape the future of humanity. And it's up to all of us to engage with it, understand it, and work to make sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We can't just sit back and let the future happen to us. We have to be part of creating it. And with that, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It really has. But before we go, I want to leave everyone with one final thought to chew on. We talked about AI's potential to change everything: education, healthcare, the way we work, even the nature of creativity. But what about us? What about being human? As AI gets more sophisticated, more integrated into our lives, what does it mean to be human in a world increasingly shaped by intelligent machines? That's something worth exploring.
Wow. Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious.